You need to be more like a dog. We don't need a bunch of cats in here looking in the mirror. Do I look good? I got my extra bands on. I got my other shoes on. We need more dogs.
And welcome back to the latest and greatest episode of the Shaving Points podcast. My name is Jayden May, joined as always by my co-host, Quenton Crisco. Also joined by very, very special guest, Chris Shepard, as we talk AFC South today.
Yeah, so I think we'll just go ahead and jump in on the Colts here and get our graphic up here. I'm assuming that I got some of the depth chart right. I hope I got some of the depth chart right. Does this mostly look accurate to you, Chris? It's always hard to take someone else's team and be like, okay, well, there's clearly a position battle here, but I'm choosing this guy.
Yeah, I think so. Honestly, I don't know that Leatu wins out early on. I think that he might be more of a guy in the beginning that's going to be like a situational guy, just with what Quiddy gives you against the run. But yeah, I mean, for by and large, I think that that's good. I think that you did some good stuff there. Nick Cross is really interesting because I think I like him in the dime role. Nick Cross is just an interesting player. But yeah, I think that's pretty solid.
Okay, and what would you consider like some of the strengths of this team? Like whether it's on this depth chart or in your own opinion, like what do you think the team really can hang its hat on?
Oh, the offensive line. There aren't a lot of offensive lines I feel that are as strong as what the Colts have, and they added a couple guys in the draft this year that just add to the depth of that. You know, I feel like that is the strength of the team, the offensive line, really the defensive line too. I mean, okay, the trenches, both sides of the ball, offensive and defensive line, solid. Grover Stewart is a guy that nobody talks about. Man, I love it. The difference between Grover Stewart being in the game and out of the game. It's amazing.
I have a question about this offensive line. So,
sure.
I don't mean this in like a joking matter. Like, I know he's still good, but it's like Quenton Nelson's still like that dude. I know he's still very good, but it seems like 3 years ago, it's like you couldn't go a week without hearing about him. And like, I know he's still very good, but is he still like that dude, or is he just like very good now?
I will say Q isn't at his peak where he was a few years ago. A few years ago, he was as dominant of an offensive lineman as I've ever seen play.
Yeah,
that's
kind of what I was getting at.
Yeah, I will say that he is not that. He had a couple back injuries, and he's not going to get beat. You're not going to beat Q, but at the same time, he's not going to spike dudes into the ground 15 times a game anymore. Yeah. You know, it's different.
But still very much worth the contract.
100%. Yeah, he's I'm trying to say that he's not he doesn't look like a Hall of Fame player, but he still kind of is, just different. I don't know. He's a great player, but he's not as great.
Guard is one of those weird positions. I mean, you have like the Zach Martins of the world that seem like you hear about every year, that every now and then like other guys will pop up, and Quenton Nelson was that guy for 3 or 4 years. And then being in Texas, I mean, I don't see a ton of indie games. I mean, I knew he wasn't like a liability by any means. I just didn't know what his production level was truly like these days.
I always wonder with, especially with interior O linemen, like you get some guys who are, you know, much more the physical brawler brand, and you get guys who are more technicians, and it always seems like the brawlers, their shelf life just isn't quite as long. And I know Quenton Nelson is like, he can be a technician, but I felt like he came in the league more of the brawler by like choice in a kind of way. And I almost wonder if he had to kind of adjust his play to some degree to stay healthy. Do you think that makes some sense?
Well, that was kind of what made Q special, was that he had the pure raw brutality. I still remember the play. I remember watching the film when he came out. He's, you know, there's nobody over here. He's the left tackle's out here. The center's got a guy. He's got nobody. His head's on a swivel. He sees a blitzing corner coming from way back on the right, and he slides out and gets it. It's an impossible play for a left guard to make, and he goes and he makes it. Like, most left guards don't even see the guy coming. So Q goes out and he does that. He has the brutal physicality. He has that unworldly football awareness, and he had the fact that he was a technician. He was constantly working on hand placement. He was constantly working on footwork. The only real knock Q had against him was that he didn't play tackle. Like that was it. Like that was the only thing. And so really the only steps back he's taken have come due to injury. So, and the injury has taken away a little bit of the physicality of his game. I think the reason that the level of his play has stayed as high as it is due to the fact that he is a technician. He is as aware as he is. He's not as physically dominant as he once was, but he has those other things to fall back on.
Yeah. And then, looking at the rest of this O-line, like Ryan Kelly's been one of the better centers in the league for a while now. What are the other? What do you think are like the strengths and weaknesses of this O-line? With I would consider Anthony Richardson run first quarterback for everything we've seen so far, and then obviously Jonathan Taylor there. So
I would disagree that he's a run first quarterback. I think that we don't necessarily know. He hasn't played a lot, but he does.
I don't mean that in a bad way.
Sure.
By the way.
Yeah. No. I get it. And like you can scheme a lot of things with him to run for sure. And I think that he opens up a lot of things in the run game. But yeah, for sure, they're definitely a great downhill run blocking unit for sure. But as far as like the offensive line goes, the strengths and weaknesses, Bernhard Raimann was a guy that they found in the 3rd round who has turned into a really good pass blocking left tackle. Still not a great run blocker, but you found an above average left tackle in the 3rd round. That's pretty good. Really the worst guy on the line is Will Fries at right guard, and he played pretty well. He's a guy I think they're going to probably move on from after this next year, but Fries is a good blocker, good, solid in the run game. He's okay as a pass blocker. And then at right tackle, Braden Smith played incredibly well, some of the best football of his career. He just couldn't stay on the field last year. And Blake Freeland, fourth rounder out of BYU, bless him, he tried his absolute best. And there's something to be said for a guy that just keeps getting absolutely murdered, and he just gets up and he keeps, he just does it again the next snap. And he gets murdered again and again and again. And, he had a lot of grit, but he wasn't very good. So the Colts went out and added some guys this year. But Freeland...
Mama always said he was a real good trier.
Yeah, he is a real good trier. That's a fantastic way to put it. But Freeland as a swing tackle, if we're looking at weaknesses, that was certainly one of them. But I got to give him credit because he was put in a really rough situation. Ryman missed some games, Smith missed some games. He bounced back and forth early in his career, and he struggled.
Well, he was a guy who, we all knew coming out last year, he had a lot of development to do, and it was raw upside, right? And so I feel like that's probably a trait that you really covet in a guy who's raw upside, that ability to keep going out there no matter, how bad it might get, but keep going, keep growing from it.
Absolutely, yeah. And that was the book on him, was that he had tremendous physical ability. Like Ballard for 3 or 4 years, all of his draft picks, the RAS scores, the RAS scores were insane. And Freeland was one of those guys where it was a 9.8 or something crazy, just some crazy high score. And Freeland's that guy. And yeah, you're going to want a guy who can, just get beat and come back and just have that ability to keep coming back and develop and grow. So
on the Ryan Kelly front, so did he have, I believe his PFF grades at least were kind of up and down the last few years before kind of bouncing back last year. Is that right? Does that kind of match the tape that you saw, or was there something deeper going on there?
Yeah, that's accurate. I agree. I don't really. All right, I'm not going to say anything bad about PFF because they're too big. I don't want to say anything bad and have their minions find me. But I don't use PFF. I rarely look at PFF. But if that's what PFF said, they're right. I will say I don't know the exact reason why Ryan Kelly's play dipped, but it did dip. I will tell you the fan speculation, and I don't tout this as being true because it's kind of an icky speculation, and I don't like it. But he and his wife had a very public it was a very public birth announcement because the Colts had it was in-season Hard Knocks. And so they had a very public, it was on HBO. Their birth announcement was on HBO, and they had a miscarriage, and they took that very hard. And so that is hard for anyone in any walk of life, in any situation. The fan speculation, again, it's icky, is that, you know, it hit his family hard and he played poorly after that, and you put two and two together and that's what it was. I don't know if he was going through an injury. I don't know, but that's what the fans think.
Center is also a tricky position when you have no consistency at quarterback whatsoever.
True. And he has had no consistency since he's had no consistency since he came into the league.
Yeah,
he's played well through all of it. Yeah,
that definitely brings the human aspect to it a little,
Yeah.
right? Like the stuff like that, I would have impacted me at work. Like, I mean,
right.
But we won't harp on that too much. On the D line, you mentioned really loving Grover Stewart, and I'm with you. I think Grover Stewart is a heck of a football player, but outside of him, I still think DeForest Buckner is one of the best three techs in the NFL, and I think the numbers and the tape both show that pretty consistently. Behind those two, though, I feel like they've built some really nice depth in this room, and the name that pops out to me as just like the what if here is Tommy Adebawore. Do you think there's a lot that he could have grown over the offseason and really put some of those traits to use this year?
Yeah, for sure. He's another one of those, you know, athletic guys that Ballard picked up on day 3. He showed some flashes. You know, he had a few plays where he really showed up on tape, and you know, you kind of saw like, oh, okay, you know, this guy, he showed up here, he showed up there. He didn't play a lot, you know, like you said, there's just, this room is deep and it's good. He made the most of the snaps he got, but yeah, he's a guy who I think could really grow and could really put some pressure on some guys this year to kind of produce. And it's going to be interesting to see, because I do believe in him as a player, what he showed at Northwestern, and with what Gus Bradley wants the guys to do up front with the penetration he wants them to get. I think that he fits that, and I think that he could be an exciting player.
But you mentioned within the scheme that Gus Bradley's running. Could you give us a little insight into what Gus Bradley's trying to do with the defense? Is it, you know, mostly cover 3, like his roots, and is it what are kind of his philosophies that you think?
Sure. Okay. So this is fun. The root of the Gus Bradley defense is actually the same as the root of your guys' defense. It all goes back to the 1970s, Pete Carroll with Monty Kiffin at Arkansas. And I'll spare you guys all that, but the root of the defense goes back to the Steelers' steel curtain. It's all bend but don't break. It is a cover 3, whereas you guys do more 2 deep safety. We had a lot of 2 deep safety when Eberflus was in Indy, but now it's not all, but it's the majority, 1 deep safety here. Does a lot of cover 3, some cover 1, works in some other things, a few 2 deep looks, but it is a lot of cover 3. It's more cover 3 than anybody else. The defense isn't complex. He wants his guys to not have to think. He doesn't want his guys to process. He wants his guys to play fast. He wants his defensive linemen to get upfield. That's different than Eberflus. Eberflus in Indy, and I'm sure it's the same in Chicago, but his entire philosophy was that he wanted basically to keep quarterbacks, especially mobile quarterbacks, he wanted to keep them in the cup. He didn't want them to escape. He didn't want them to get out. And, you know, he wanted his defensive linemen to, it wasn't penetration. It was to read and react. Whereas Gus Bradley, he wants to stop the run on the way to the quarterback. He wants his guys to get upfield, pin their ears back, take their gap, and just get upfield, get after the quarterback. And if they happen to stop the running back on the way, that's great. So I actually prefer Eberflus on the back end, and I prefer Bradley on the front end. I like what Bradley does with the defensive line. You can't really marry those two together as well, I don't think. Well, you can. I like a mixture of the two defensive schemes.
Well, that's kind of like, so even not to make this about the Bears, but last year when Eberflus's scheme wasn't working for the first half of the season, he went to some like Mike Zimmer principles in cover 3, and it started working really well. And like, so I think that's kind of what you're getting at, marrying the concepts together.
Yeah. And I think you can do that really well. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say on this graphic, what is B Mason on this DC, or did you just mess that up?
I'm not sure. I might have goofed that because it's Gus Bradley still at DC, right? A D coordinator.
Yeah.
I might have just.
I just googled it and I was like, yeah, it's definitely still Gus Bradley. So I was like,
I'm typing a lot of names in.
No, you're fine.
I messed something up. Why don't we stick with scheme here for a second? What do you see in Shane Steichen's scheme, and what do you think this thing is going to look like with Anthony Richardson for hopefully most of the season here?
Shane Steichen, all right, he took Gardner Minshew. I'm about to say a bunch of things that make it sound like I hate Gardner Minshew, and I don't. I really appreciate Gardner Minshew. I will root for Gardner Minshew for the rest of his career as long as he doesn't play for the Titans or the Patriots. I will be a Gardner Minshew fan forever.
I want Gardner Minshew playing linebacker for me.
Yeah, Gardner. I don't care what Gardner Minshew, the person, the player, the teammate, the dude. Like I love Gardner Minshew, but everything I'm about to say makes it sound like I hate Gardner Minshew. Gardner Minshew is not a starting quarterback in the NFL. The fact that he's starting for the Raiders is wild to me. I saw a stat earlier today that the Colts were top 5 for plays of 30 or more yards last year, with an offense led by Gardner Minshew. Gardner Minshew had trouble driving the ball more than 20 yards downfield last year. Gardner Minshew often escaped clean pockets, ran himself into trouble, and just wildly chucked the ball down the field. Shane Steichen's offense with Gardner Minshew, he used him incredibly well. He used him well in spite of himself. He used the pieces around him well. He was able to use Michael Pittman Jr. well. He uses what he has available as well as possible. And when he had Anthony Richardson and Jonathan Taylor together they're going to be a lot of fun, because Anthony Richardson and Zach Moss, just the running lanes he opened for Zach Moss, I remember, I'll never forget it because I put my foot in my mouth a week before it happened. But I was talking to a guy on Twitter about how Zach Moss, I was like, Zach Moss is never going to break a 50-yard run, but he's a good back to have. And because Anthony Richardson, the way the safety came down and played, he played outside, he cheated outside because he was worried about on a zone run, zone read, Anthony Richardson sneaking around the outside. Safety came down, cheated it outside, and opened up a massive hole for Zach Moss to take it 50 yards. So combining Anthony Richardson and Jonathan Taylor together, just the things that Shane Steichen's going to be able to do. His red zone stuff with Anthony Richardson last year was silly. Like, it was just the short
he's
time.
He's a freak athlete.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. But I mean, just the misdirection stuff, the pass run options that he put together. There were 2 or 3 plays with Richardson where he could pass it, he could run it, he could hand it off. There was no winning for the defense. There was there was no way the defense could win.
So earlier it seemed like I kind of struck a nerve when I said run first quarterback. So I gotta ask, does it worry you at all that in his career, including high school, he's got like less dropbacks than the average starting quarterback in a 17-game season?
For sure.
So like that was my like run first. Like, I'm not saying he's looking to run first, but you hope he can develop into a strong passer. I mean, he's got the arm, but I mean, I would say right now in his career, you want him with the ball in his hands more often than not, whether that is RPOs or speedos, whatever it is. Just the ball in his hands, and then
for sure,
with Jonathan Taylor back there as well. I mean, that's not a bad thing to have, and he can throw it 97 yards.
Well, at some level, it's like you're talking the Jalen Hurts kind of playbook at some level of.
But he's got twice
we're using this guy's. Oh yeah, but like we're using this guy's athleticism to grow him as a passer too, and we'll ease stuff in because we have this benefit of using his
Yeah,
legs.
he's got special arm talent, but I mean, I would say right now he is every bit of a run first, and that's not a bad thing for a second year guy.
Well, the reason that struck a nerve is because, in Colts fandom, leading up to the draft, Colts fans, a lot of Colts fans, very vocal Colts fans, wanted the Colts to draft Will Levis. I watched the film. I watched Will Levis.
Mayo boy.
Yeah, and Will Levis, I can see. Yeah, I know. I can see a path to Will Levis being a fine quarterback in the NFL. Anthony Richardson physically is an alien. There aren't very many people like him walking around. There are people like Will Levis walking around. There just are. I just see them differently, and people wanted Will Levis. And so the whole talking point became...
They wanted Will Levis as early as you took Anthony Richardson,
yes,
or they just wanted to wait and get Will Levis?
No, they wanted Will Levis at 4.
I love
5.
NFL fans so much.
Yes, and it was maddening. It was maddening. And so that's why it struck a nerve, because the talking point was Anthony Richardson to run first quarterback. He's not a run first quarterback. A lot of these people, I'm not going to say it, but he has potential. He's not. But he's not. Here's the thing. He's not. He works, and here's why. He works his reads. He works 1 to 2 to 3. I saw him at Florida. I would have to go back. Go back, and I would have to look. He got to his 4th read a few times. He didn't get to 4 that many times. But he's not a guy who goes 1, oh no, and he takes off. He's not a guy that goes 1, 2, oh no, and takes off. He's not a run first quarterback. He's a guy that works his reads. He is a guy who runs a legit 4.4, who weighs 250 pounds, who, if you want him to, can run, but he isn't a guy who he looks to pass first.
Yes.
He keeps and one thing he does really well, better than anybody in his class, was in the pocket. He keeps his eyes downfield better than anybody. He worked the pocket better than anybody. He had better pocket feel than anybody. But so that's why that struck a nerve with me.
So I guess the point I was making more so not I was talking just mainly just like any
his
given play.
Level?
Yes, you want him running the ball more so than passing, and I do think he's patient as a passer, and he does work his reads. I think he stands in there a little bit too long, especially at Florida. Yeah. We didn't really see much of it last year, but that was what I was getting at. Is like you want him running rather than passing most of the time. Not necessarily that he's looking to run on a passing play. So maybe I just misworded that for you.
Yeah, no, and so I agree with you. There were times at Florida where I was watching his tape and I'm like, dude, run, go, just go, and he wouldn't. Like he did hang in too long for sure. Yeah.
And just fun
big
fact,
fan though. Don't let me get it twisted. I love Anthony Richardson.
You go over to the relative athletic scores, you change his position to edge rusher, and he's still an elite Raz. So that's always fun. But let's talk about the weapons here a little bit. And so I'm going to start in an obscure spot here. Is Will Mallory going to get more play time this year?
Oh, you love Will Mallory.
That's a good question. Will Mallory. So I like Will Mallory for some reason. All right, for some reason the Colts really love Mo Alley-Cox, and I think it has a lot to do with Mo Alley-Cox being a good dude, being a good teammate, being good in the locker room. He is huge for sure. Like he's massive. He's a massive dude. But
it just seems like one of those guys who walks in the locker room. We're like, we're gonna get this guy the ball, one way or the other.
I just put out a short today of him trucking like 3 guys into the end zone. So I get
it. But he also moved like. Okay, he is faster than me, but not by like that much. Okay, it's closer than it should be. So Will Mallory he's a guy I think that can grow a lot in these next couple of years, but I don't know that the Colts think that he gives you like a lot more than what Kylan Granson gives you. I think that he can, But as of right now, they might duplicate a little bit. But then the one that's going to limit him most is one that I don't see on there. It's Jelani Woods.
Yeah, he's down below because he missed all last season.
He did.
It's like written below it. Yeah. Jelani Woods, that's a good point. And easy for me to overlook since he didn't have stats last year.
Yeah. So Jelani Woods, all right, so the inside scoop on Jelani Woods is that he came into camp with a hamstring, but he came in out of shape. And he came in out of shape. The word is he came in out of shape because he believed that tight end 1 was his. And he didn't put in effort over the offseason. He then realized tight end 1 wasn't his, and he hurt his other hamstring coming back. And the team really wasn't having his crap and basically just put him on ice for the year. And by all accounts, he has been working this offseason. Yes, this was last year. So he missed last year due to pulled hamstrings. And you can tear hamstrings. Right. But you can tear hamstrings, but I think that there was more there than just torn hamstrings. But as far as physical talent goes, he is as physically talented as any tight end on the roster. So if he is back at 100%, giving everything he's got, Will Mallory has in order for Will Mallory to make an impact, there are a lot of guys in front of him.
He's got a loaded up room.
Yeah. Well, it's a loaded up room of, I'll say, man, kind of mid-tier guys. Yeah. Like there's no star on those.
There's no alpha in that room.
Yeah.
So for the people listening that might not be Colts fans, can you just shed some light on how good Michael Pittman is for people?
So Michael Pittman Jr., again, he's not, I'm not going to say he's a top 10 guy, probably not a top 15 guy.
He's always open.
Top 20, we could start having that conversation. Pitt is a guy, throw him the ball. Just throw him the ball. Throw it to him. He'll go up and he'll get it. He's going to take contact. He's going to dish contact. Pitt gets he has a lot of flags thrown on him. He has a lot of flags thrown on him because he's going to hold. He will throw cracked back blocks. Put
him at tight end.
Yeah, well, maybe. He will try to take a DB's head off. I'm not saying that you should play football that way. Michael Pittman Jr. will do whatever it takes to win. And
my guy.
By the way, he's also a pretty good receiver too. He's got good hands. He's not the fastest guy. He is kind of sneaky with his run after the catch. I think he had a screen last year that he took for, I want to say 40 or 50 yards. He scored on it. But he runs through a lot of contact. If you get him the ball at 10 yards, he's probably going to pick up 14, 15, just running through a DB. But he's a guy that if you really need a first down on third down, just throw it to him. He's going to fight for it. He's going to get it.
Every time I turn on a Colts game, I just find myself rooting for that guy.
Yeah,
every single time. He's just a football dude.
He's tough to not like, dude. He's just like, you can't not respect his game. Like unless you're the DB getting bullied, you probably hate him then.
And then how does Josh Downs complement that?
Josh Downs is he is, if it's third down, you're playing man coverage. Good luck. He's if you don't get a hand on him right off the line, he is so slippery. He is so quick. Just that the first steps, man, just over the middle, he's going to get open. He is a route winner. He just wins off the line. Just an outlet right away. I was surprised. I liked his film after the Colts drafted. I went back and I watched, and I liked it. But I was surprised by how quickly in his routes he won, especially in those man-to-man situations. He was good in zone, but he's almost impossible to cover one-on-one over the middle. Shane Steichen works him into matchup problems against linebackers and against your fourth corner. If it's a dime situation, he's got five wide outs out there. good luck. Good luck covering him. He's a fun player to watch. Had a good rookie year, and this year, the ball it's going to get spread out more. So I don't know that he's going to have a lot more production, but I think that he's still going to present those same matchup problems this year.
Obviously, or I mean, those seem like they would obviously be your top two guys there. How does the number 3 wide receiver position shake out between Alec Pierce, who was a decently high draft pick a few years ago, and A.D. Mitchell, who was just taken this past year in the second round?
Quenton loves Adonai Mitchell, by the way.
I love Alec Pierce too, so this is a tough one for me.
So, Alec Pierce, I don't want to say anything bad about Alec Pierce, but also Alec Pierce doesn't really create separation unless he's running a 9 route. If he runs a legit 4-3, so if you send him deep, he can beat his guy deep. His routes aren't the best routes. He's not going to do much other than run deep, and that's what the Colts did. He ran more route yards last year.
AD over Alex. That's Husman Jones.
But we had a comment here: AD over Alec.
Yeah. So when you look at what Shane Steichen's going to do, it may not happen week 1, but I think that AD he's definitely the better route runner. I think his hands are better. I think that he's going to win that job, and I think that he's the type of receiver that can make. So Anthony Richardson's not an accurate passer. He isn't. There's no way around that, and AD's the type of receiver. Not yet, right? But he's the type of receiver that can take that flaw and erase it. And I think that he's better for the quarterback. He's better for the offense. He's a rookie, so we'll have to wait and see. I don't know that it happens right away, but I think that AD wins that job eventually.
I think that, to me, that makes sense. I look at, I haven't watched that much Alec Pierce since he was drafted, but it was when he was coming out, that was even the risk of it, right? It was like, this guy tests great, but the routes are pretty simple in college. His route tree is pretty stripped down, and we don't know how he's going to create separation at the next level, except for those go routes. So
right.
I think that all kind of tracks. Like you obviously, as a full disclosure, he went to my high school, so I'm always rooting for the kid. You'd like to see him grow on that.
He was in second grade.
If AD's better, AD's better. Oh yeah. He was a little baby when I was in high school. But I'm still rooting for him. But anyways, moving on to the running backs. So what exactly was the Jonathan Taylor injury last year, and what's kind of the recovery timetable?
That's a good question. According to everybody in the official Colts facility, the Jonathan Taylor injury last year was totally real.
He had a deflated bag injury.
I think that's what it was. But he signed that contract and got healthy real quick.
It's running back's not one of those things where you can just get up and go. If there's any position on the field that you need reps for, it's probably running back. Just because you hear retired guys talk about it all the time, especially running backs. They're like, everybody thinks running back's like a plug and play position, but if you're not getting reps, like, you don't know. Like, if you have one new offensive lineman in the mix, like, you don't know how they're gonna exactly where their feet are gonna be on a block. Like, where the last guy maybe had his feet like a little bit more inside, and another guy's gonna have his feet a little bit more outside, or like all the intricacies that come with like an inside run versus an outside zone. If you're not taking those reps in practice, like, you don't know where your guys are going to be. So it's like, it doesn't really matter how skilled you are. It's not something like you can just pick up and go because you have that natural ability.
It was a lot different too, because in Frank Reich's offense, most of what Jonathan Taylor was used to was under center, and none of Shane Steichen's stuff is under center. So he had to adjust to running from gun for the first time. At Wisconsin, now Wisconsin's in gun, but they weren't when he was there.
Wisconsin's just running air raid, baby.
Right, which is weird, but whatever.
Welcome to the new Big Ten.
Right. but yeah, so that was an adjustment. He had to do that for the first time in his career. So it took him some time to get up to speed. But after he kind of got used to that, it was obvious he's still Jonathan Taylor.
Oh,
And
very much so. Yeah.
he's still produced like, and I just realized that as you were giving your answer, I asked about injuries if he missed a ton of time, and I got that idea in my head because I watched in the last 2 weeks. I watched the Indy Houston game from week 2, the Indy Rams game from week 4, the Indy Tennessee game from week 12, and the Indy Pittsburgh game from week 14, which all happened to be games he didn't play, whether it be the 3 games he missed for injury or the contract holdout. So I just got in my head that he missed more time than he did. But that all makes sense. I mean, his numbers still look like he is that guy, and I'm gonna have to go back and take a look at some of the tape from the other games.
And he signed a multi-year deal last year, didn't he? What is all said and done? Correct.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, he did.
That's what I thought.
And then we have Hustleman Jones in the comments asking, "Do you think that Evan Hull has a chance at running back too?" What are your thoughts on that?
So, I don't, but that's not indicative of what I think of Evan Hull as a back. I think that has more to do with what Shane Steichen has shown he wants from his running back 2. Last year, his running back 2 was Zach Moss. What is Zach Moss? Zach Moss isn't a pass catcher. He's not a scat back. He's a bigger bruising back. And so what did they do? They went out and they signed, who is it?
Trey Sermon.
Trey Sermon.
Trey Sermon. Right there.
Loved him coming out of college.
Right. So they signed Trey Sermon, who is a big back.
Didn't they draft a guy too? Or no? Q?
I don't think so.
No, they did not.
That comes the
So Trey Sermon is going to be running back 2. That's not to say that Evan Hull isn't going to get more opportunities. I think Evan Hull will probably get more opportunities just because they're going to bring him in on passing downs. They're going to use him probably to block. They're going to use him out of the backfield. I guess it depends on how you define running back 2.
Out of all the running backs in the league, though, I mean, I think outside of maybe CMC, who gets the offense kind of runs through him in San Francisco, I think Jonathan Taylor is as much of a bell cow as you can get, to where running back 2 may truly only get 10 to 20 or 10 to 15% of the snaps, and in those snaps, maybe 1 or 2 touches a game. Like, I don't feel like you really want to take the ball out of Jonathan Taylor's hands.
Right. That's the thing. So, and I mean, that's kind of what I mean. Like, it doesn't really matter. Ideally, it doesn't matter who running back 2 is. Like, you don't want running back 2 in the game, really. You paid him running back 1 money in an era where you don't pay running back 1 money. So you hope running back 2 isn't on the field. And if you have a running back that you get on the field, and if Evan Hull is that guy, you use him in a very specific way. So I think that Evan Hull's more important than running back 2 if he's in the plans to be that kind of that pass catcher.
You're saying if we're looking at fantasy, don't touch anybody except Jonathan Taylor in this running back room.
100%.
I'm with you right there. So that's probably the best way to put it for people.
Let's wrap up the roster here with some of the coverage players and linebackers too after that. But looking at this cornerback room, what are your initial thoughts on this, Chris? Because I see some maybe potential in spots, but I also see some concerns in spots. What do you think about the room?
Kenny Moore, he's pretty good.
Yeah.
After that, okay, so
JuJu Brents has a great name.
JuJu Brents has a great name. So, 2021? No, it's 2022. 2022, Colts fans were ready to kill Chris Ballard for the offensive line. And he started...
Shout out Jalen Jones.
He started Bernhard Ryman at left tackle, and he started Will Fries at right guard. They were both rookies. And over the back half of the year, they played terrible the first half of the year. The back half of the year, they played a lot better. But fans didn't really pay attention to the back half of the year because they won 4 games. and nobody really paid attention to the fact that they got a lot better. So when the draft came around, a lot of Colts fans were expecting them to draft an offensive lineman early. And I told Colts fans, I kept saying, hey guys, they're not taking an offensive lineman early. Chris Ballard has just straight up told us like the offensive line played better, and they did play better. And so this year, the same thing happened with the corners and the safeties. I said, hey, well, I didn't say it, but Chris Ballard said, hey, they struggled early on. They were young. They got better as the season went on. We're not, basically Chris Ballard said, we're not drafting one early. And they didn't draft any secondary help really at all. And so what the Colts are counting on is a similar jump and play like they got from the offensive line from 2022 to 2023. It worked. And so they're banking on JuJu Brents. All right, so Darrell Baker Jr., I'll give him a lot of credit because I talked about the kid from BYU earlier. I've got a lot of names in my head right now. He kept getting murdered. Blake Freeland, thank you. Freeland kept getting murdered, and he kept coming back. Darrell Baker Jr. got murdered early in the season, and like game after game after game. At the end of the year, he came back and he played all right. We maybe replacement level, but before replacement level, like we were like, is he even going to be allowed on the bus? So like he improved. Dallas Flowers tore his Achilles by all accounts. I mean, that's tough. That's tough for anybody to come back from. It's really tough for a corner, but by all accounts, he's coming back well. And before that, he was playing pretty well. And Hustleman Jones is right. Jalen Jones is a dog.
That's what I was about to ask. Is Jalen Jones a dog?
Jalen
Hustleman Jones Jalen Jones? Jalen Jones watching the live stream right now?
They might be related. I don't know. But he is good.
I think we got Jalen Jones in the comments right now.
He might be, but he is
dog,
good. How good is he? How good can he be? I don't know. I think he's a little bit limited physically. Sorry, Hustleman Jones. I don't think he's ever going to be shut down. But as far as corners go, I think he's a talented corner. JuJu has a lot of potential. He's got to stay healthy. He's got to stay on the field. He missed camp last year. He missed several games last year. And corner, I don't believe corner is one of those positions that you can really get a lot better at when you don't play. So JuJu's got to play, but he has all the physical gifts in the world to be good, especially with what the Colts want him to do, with what Gus Bradley wants JuJu Brents to do. JuJu has the height, he has the explosion, he has the length. JuJu has it all. He's just got to be on the field, and so the Colts have a lot of guys that, again, this is another if position. If these guys turn out to be as good as what they can be, and if they all stay healthy, the corners could be an average unit. And Kenny Moore is a good nickel. I'll give Kenny Moore that. The rest of these guys, I think Jalen Jones is probably, his ceiling's probably an above average corner. JuJu Brents, I don't know what his ceiling is. I like him. No idea what he is. Darrell Baker Jr. is, man, if he's your fifth corner, that's pretty good. Dallas Flowers is coming off a torn Achilles, and I've never seen a corner come off a torn Achilles, so who knows. Safeties, I hope Chris Ballard goes out and signs somebody, because I am not feeling good about the safeties.
Yeah, I was watching the Rams game today, and I saw Rodney Thomas at the end of that game, and then I just felt crushed for, like, it was just, that one hurt, like, as someone who's not even a Colts fan. And what was Nick Cross's role? Because his stats look great, but then I see only 25% of snaps, and I didn't dive enough into the tape to really figure it out.
Yeah, so Nick Cross's role, best I can tell, is being young and super athletic. So they drafted him. They traded up in the third round 2 years ago to get him, and it was one of those things where it felt like they gave him a red shirt, and they were hoping that he was going to kind of figure it out. That he was going to put it together. They put him out there a little bit, and it was good to watch him play last year, because unlike some of the other guys, when he was out there, if he made a mistake, he made it at 100 miles an hour. But, he made a lot of 100-mile-an-hour mistakes. So I don't know. He's got to figure it out this year, and I think that he's still a guy the Colts are hoping can come on. But yeah, I think that they want him in the box more. I definitely don't think that you don't want him as your last line of defense, just because he's just not making good decisions. Yeah.
It's like you got to have a feel for space to play center field, right? Yeah. And then just high level, before we let you go, what are your thoughts on the linebacker room?
So, I like Zaire Franklin a lot. He's probably got my favorite player podcast in the NFL. That's probably me being a little bit of a homer. But
tell me you don't get down with Taylor Lewan and busting with the boys.
No, I can't stand Taylor Lewan. I can't stand him. Yeah, probably the Titans thing. But
is that? I was about to say, is that a Titans thing or is that a Taylor Lewan thing? Because it could go both ways.
Probably. And I know, so that's the thing. I know Q's friends with him. I don't care. I hate Taylor Lewan. Can't stand him. But so I really like Zaire Franklin. The dude plays hard. He's tough. He's a great tackler. He's just all right in coverage. EJ Speed is Wish brand Shaq Leonard. And that's probably disrespectful. But EJ Speed is really exciting, because EJ Speed is going to, again, make plays at 100 miles an hour, and you never know when it's going to be a great play or it's going to be a 15-yard penalty, because those are your options. That's it. That's what's coming with EJ Speed. Alub, God, I can't say his name.
Segun Alubi?
That's not, I know it's not right. I can't say it. I couldn't say it last year. So he actually, there you go. We'll go with it. He actually played really well when he was in there. Better than I expected, better than anybody expected him to. Well, I mean, probably not him, his mom, or the Colts, but better than any of us expected him to play. So I was impressed with him. I don't know, if they want to rely on him. And Ronnie Harrison, he came in, I think he had a couple picks last year. He's converted safety. I want to say they actually played him. I'd have to go back and look. I want to say they actually played him at safety a little bit.
He very well could have. I was just going off whatever designation PFF gave him, because they had the most reliable rosters at the time.
Yeah, and I think that I want to say he bounced back and forth, because when they cut Shaq, they brought Ronnie up as a linebacker, but I think they got desperate. I don't know. It was kind of wild there for a minute. But yeah, no, I mean, Ronnie filled in well, and Chris Ballard. So they drafted a guy this year, or no, Carlisle's, I think. One of those guys.
Yeah.
But they're converting him to linebacker, and Carlisle's. Yep, Carlisle's. By all accounts, during rookie minicamp and all the offseason workouts, the guys played great. So that could be
coming in with all the facts,
all the answers.
I know. That's the thing, man. I got so much going on in my brain, I can't keep them all straight. So I appreciate it.
That's why we keep us men around.
See, that's the thing. That's how we know he is Jalen Jones, because he's the only dude that has all the guys actually on the roster. And, okay,
correct.
All right. Appreciate it, Jalen.
All right. Well, Chris, thank you so much for your insight. Can you tell people where they can find your work, find your Twitter profile, anything else you want to push out there?
Yeah, sure. You can find my work on StampedeBlue.com. You can find me on Twitter at NFL Scheme. And I'm always around.
I got two more questions for you.
Okay, right on.
Thank you for coming on. How much do you miss Peyton Manning?
You have no idea, dude.
He's my favorite player ever. Well, I guess
really?
Patrick Mahomes is. Me and Quenton went to Texas Tech. So Patrick Mahomes kind of took over that throne. But growing up, man,
So
Peyton Manning was my favorite player ever.
So 2007 didn't do anything to you?
I'm not a Bears fan. I'm a Cowboys fan.
Okay, all right.
It might be different for him.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it didn't, because Rex Grossman did more bad to the Bears than Peyton Manning did that.
And they had the opening kickoff return for a touchdown. You can never take that away from them.
That's true.
Yeah.
You kicked it to
I'm not
Devin
gonna lie.
Hester.
I'm not gonna lie. Do you guys know the story of why they kicked it to Devin Hester?
I remember hearing it back then, but I couldn't retell it.
So, Tony Dungy. All right, here's the story, and then we can wrap it up just real quick. Tony Dungy, the game plan leading up to the game all week was that they're not kicking to Devin Hester. Then the night before, Tony Dungy listened to some preacher talk about how David and Goliath, like David wasn't afraid of the giant, right? And Tony Dungy's like, well, we're not going to be afraid. We're going to kick it to Devin Hester. So because he heard some preacher talk about David and Goliath, they kicked it to Devin Hester, and Goliath won. So,
It's crazy. It's one of the most iconic plays in Super Bowl history, and it's from the losing team.
Right, I know, yeah. Right. But yeah.
So last one here for you. We talk a lot of betting on everything on here, and I don't know if you're a bet man or not, but we got a win total of 8.5. And so I'm assuming you think they go over. It seems like you're very confident in this roster. And 2, probably the hardest division in football, if not second hardest division, depending on what you think. Where do you think they finish in this division, and what kind of record are you thinking for this Colts team?
Yeah, you keep saying it's a hard division. Who
I think the Texans are very much improved with one of the best young up and coming quarterbacks in the league. And I think Trevor Lawrence last year I think the injury hurt him a lot, but I think a healthy Trevor Lawrence is not to be trifled with whatsoever. And I think the Titans are a better than average team. So when you have 3 teams in the division that I think they can win double-digit games, that makes for one of the toughest divisions of football, in my opinion.
Okay. All right. Well, that's interesting. I respect your opinion. I don't believe in the Jaguars for a single second. The Texans, I think the Texans are a good team. I think that they.
So you think the Texans got worse?
No. I don't think that at all. I think that they're a good team. I think that they almost lost to Gardner Minshew, and if not for the Colts' 4th string running back dropping a pass, they would have missed the playoffs last year. But yeah, they're a good team, and they got better this year. So they'll probably win the division. But I do think the Colts go over 8. Even if Anthony Richardson doesn't stay healthy, Joe Flacco's pretty good backup.
The GOAT.
That's the dude.
I mean,
They ran him out of Cleveland.
Yeah, which Cleveland makes some decisions, man. I don't know about that franchise.
So
We
you
just
think
talked about that last week.
you think the Colts win the Colts win the division pretty easily, or you think it's close race?
No, I think the Texans. So I mean, the Texans have to be the favorite, right? I mean,
Cowboys aren't the favorite in the NFC, so I'm still picking the Cowboys.
Yeah, that's a choice. But no, I mean, I think that there's a very clear path, an obvious way that the Colts could win the South.
Oh yeah.
I analytically, no. I mean, like, I'm not gonna pick them. If I'm analyzing it, no, I'm not picking them. Like if I'm like just being a fan, yeah, I'm picking them.
Hey, it's done deal.
Hustleman
Jones called it. Done deal. All right. Well, thank you for coming on. So we got over 8 wins, and what do you think? Second in the division, so you got a shot at the playoffs. I think 9 or 10 wins gets you right in the thick of things in that AFC. We've been talking AFC for the last couple of weeks, and
yeah, I mean, I think playoffs plus 140 is an easy bet, and I think winning the division at plus 330, there's value. There's some value in that.
I don't know. I haven't looked. I don't know what the odds are, but if you can get Jonathan Taylor for Offensive Player of the Year, if Jonathan Taylor and Anthony Richardson play 14, 15 games together next year, I don't know what you can get the odds at, but I would take that bet. Whatever it is, I'd take the bet.
It's so tough right now in this system of or where we are in the NFL. But I love Jonathan Taylor. I think Jonathan Taylor could have 1,700 yards and like 19 touchdowns, and they would still give it to like.
He's gonna have more than that.
Or if Justin Jefferson.
If they play 14, 15 games together, he's gonna have more than that.
So you think he can go for 2K?
I do.
JT 2K?
Yeah.
JT 2K watch?
Yeah. I'm not even being a homer. He went for 1,800 with Carson Wentz as his quarterback in a system that was not
People forget Carson
Wentz
basically won MVP one year.
Yeah, okay. All right. So, okay. All right.
Not catching all the inside jokes.
I'm just saying, Shane Steichen, Anthony Richardson, Jonathan Taylor, 2K is it like I'm not even being a homer. That's just not
JT 2K easy. Let's go, Hustleman Jones.
That's the thing. Like I'm not. It's not even crazy to me. Like just knowing the
especially in a 17-game season with his usage rate and everything. I mean, I think in recent history, it would be least surprising for Jonathan Taylor to do it than who was the last guy to do it? Chris Johnson.
Yeah.
Throw $20 on it. Throw $20 on it.
Yeah.
You won't like. It's a good bet. I'm telling you.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, if he stays healthy, absolutely. I mean, Jonathan Taylor's a dog, so he could absolutely
I'll probably throw a few bucks on that.
Yeah, I'll throw a couple shekels on there, maybe a couple of galleons.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, dude,
Chris.
it was a great time, man. I enjoyed it.
All right, appreciate it, guys.
All right, have a good night.
Love the hair.
Yeah, thanks.
Oh, yeah.
Appreciate it.
We're a bit.
We're both bald and bearded, so
yeah, that's great. That's great.
It's perfect look. We're
fit right in, buddy.
All right. Have a good one.
Take it easy,
man.
man.
You too.
So, getting to our bets and predictions and everything here. Wins, losses. So you said you like them to win the division at plus 330 as far as value goes.
Yeah,
I think that's probably best value as well. I mean, I'm probably going with that. I don't think I'm taking them for AFC Champ or Super Bowl, even though 25-1 and 55-1 are pretty good. I think plus 330 is your best odds. I mean, I think this is going to be a super tight race for the division. He didn't seem to think the division was very strong. I think this is a very, very strong division.
I'm kind of with him on. I'm probably a little higher than him on Jacksonville, but not a ton. I feel like that roster's just weird.
Well,
like,
I'm also.
I want to say Trevor. We'll get there.
I'm not, but at the same time, I'm not necessarily extremely high on the Colts.
Yeah. Well, let's go through the schedule.
Yeah. To me, if you like over 8.5 wins, then you should be sprinkling that division at plus 330 because I think this division winner is about 10 or 11 wins. So, and if they can win 9, they can win 10. So. We'll get started. Week 1, Texans Colts. I'm going Texans here. Opening up the season after the season CJ Stroud just had. I'm not a huge believer in Anthony Richardson right now as a complete player, and I like what the Colts did, or I like what the Texans did on defense and offense. I think they have the better coaching staff. I think they have the better quarterback. I think they have the better skill players at wide receiver. So I'm going Texans there. Week 2,
week 1, weird things happen at Lucas Oil, especially in week 1. I'm taking Colts.
They get new turf though.
Even weirder.
They don't got the weird turf anymore. Week 2, give me Indy beating Green Bay. I'm not very high on Green Bay this year. I mean, we'll see. Maybe they can just never have a bad quarterback, but we'll see. I like the Colts in that game. Week 3,
taking Packers there. I think Matt LaFleur is gonna. I think it's gonna be a great matchup of two head coaches who really know what they're doing, and just being in Green Bay, I think I'm taking. Taking
so back. Week 3 against the Bears. Give me Caleb Williams season right here. Chicago going on the road to Indy. I think, is this a primetime game?
No.
I hope. Oh, it should be. Those two quarterbacks aren't prime time.
Nope.
If there's ever been a must-see
Either
game,
that or I missed it. I only have one
It's-
primetime game on here for them, so maybe I missed it.
gracious. Anthony Richardson versus Caleb Williams? That's going to be electric. If it's not prime time, make sure you watch it. But I'm taking the Bears there. And then I'll take
I'm
the
taking Colts week 3. I think that the Bears D-line is going to have a really hard time stopping the Colts run game.
Yeah, it's going to be tough to stop for anybody, that's for sure. And then Pittsburgh, Indy, week 4. I got the Steelers this game. We already talked about the Steelers. I like the Steelers a lot this season. Jacksonville, week 5 at Jacksonville early in the season. Hard to play in Jacksonville early in the season. Still really hot down there in Florida. Give me Jacksonville.
Yeah, I'm taking the Jags as well.
Back-to-back road games going to Nashville the very next week. I'm not big on the Titans. Give me Indy here.
I'm with you. And then,
After back-to-back away games down south, they go back up to Indy Midwest. We can call Indy the Midwest, right?
Indy's definitely Midwest.
Midwest, okay.
We're getting all types of geography on here.
Yeah,
Few
so
weeks.
we go back.
We
to the
went on like a
Midwest.
10-minute or like a 5-minute tangent about what's the Midwest on last week's show.
Oh man, yeah. From Texas, everything's the Midwest, like west of New York. But yeah, I'm taking Colts here in this game. I don't think the Dolphins play well on the road. They're definitely a home team.
In Indy, I'm taking the Colts there.
And I think the Texans get the sweep here. I think I'll take the Texans week 8 at home.
I've got the split, but yeah, I got Texans here.
All right, the next up, I have the Colts taking over the Vikings. I don't care if it's JJ McCarthy. I don't care if it's Sam Darnold. I like the Colts there. Buffalo coming to Indy the week after that. I like the Colts there in that game.
I'm in between. I wrote Bills at first, but
I don't love that
I might
Bills
come
roster.
back and swap that.
Yeah, I got to see that Bills roster in action first.
I
then
think
Indy going
with Indy's cornerback questions, I like the Bills roster more against Indy than against other teams.
That's true. And then next up we have the Jets. Assuming this is a healthy Jets team, I'll take the Jets as well as you.
Jets, Jets.
All right, Detroit coming into town after a Jets game. That's tough for them. Those wide receivers, Sam Laporta, that running game. Give me the Lions here. I love the Lions this year.
I think this is going to be a hell of a game.
Yeah, I think it will be great.
I'm going to take Lions, but I think this game has big time potential.
Yeah,
like
and then I'll take
time.
Colts over Patriots.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
And then we both took Colts over Broncos. I'll take Colts over Titans. I'm just not high on the Titans, and especially no Mike Vrabel there anymore. I just don't know how much they'll get up for those games, like they used to. I'll give me Colts over Giants. I think the Giants might get that number 1 seed number 1 overall pick this year. And then Jacksonville, week 18. I gotta give it to the Colts here. Is it Jacksonville is it the Colts that never beat Jacksonville, or Jacksonville that never beats the Colts? I can't remember.
I thought it was the Colts that never beat Jacksonville.
Like no matter what. Like no matter what, it don't matter if the teams are good, it don't matter if the teams are bad, but like one of these teams always wins.
I thought that was in Jacksonville though.
Oh, it might be. I'm still taking the Colts here though.
Yeah, I'm taking the Colts too. I think there's going to be playoff implications there. I think the Colts are playing guys.
Run there at the end of that schedule: Patriots, Broncos, Titans, Jags.
You got the Colts at 10-7. I've got them at 11-6. So the over 8.5, we're liking.
Yeah, especially that end of the year schedule, man.
Yeah,
assuming they're fully healthy, like, man, that's not a bad way to end your season.
Yeah, no, not at all.
We both had them ending on 5-game winning streaks.
You play to win the game. Hello? You play to win the game. You don't play to just play it.